through holes of grace. Snakes wrap my mind so much I gotta touch myself, pinch myself, remind myself to let his love come shoot inside and all over me. Please, Lord, don't leave me, Jesus.
What is going on, everybody? All right, so as promised, we're back again today. And like yesterday, I just went and did cardio real quick. Got the sweat sock on my body. And I'm sending everybody the link. So we'll slowly have people coming on. But today we're looking at Enoch some. So the deal with Enoch, hey, what's going on, J Frog? So the deal with Enoch, I have specifically avoided diving into Enoch because I have a friend who might be jumping on today. I'm going to send him the link in a second. He's actually a kind of a mentor of mine from back in the day. He was a bodybuilder guy, and then I was going to do a show, and I ended up not being ready for one and had to jump in a show that he was actually in. But I was going to be in the novice class. And then they didn't have a novice class, so I was thrown in the class with him. And it was actually pretty cool because as we were like lined up backstage, you know, like I wasn't as nervous and stuff because he was right there, you know. And ironically, his name is the same as another guy in the religious world. His name's Wes. So hopefully if we see Wes today, that'll be cool. But you know how it is when you're an adult. You wake up on the weekend and sometimes you got other things that you got to do. And this sort of stuff takes the energy out of you. So, you know what I mean? But I decided to do another one. I wanted to, yesterday we jumped on real quick just because your Christian friend from the chat yesterday. No. Actually, yes, Jesse. Thanks for reminding me, J Frog. I was actually going to invite him on because he was going to talk maybe a little bit about like how he became a Christian. And, you know, he's a Army veteran, things like that. And I like to hear everyone's story, even if, you know, there's nothing crazy about it, just because I guess as a civil affairs dude from the Army, there's a little bit of journalism attached to that. And you kind of want to, the cultural interaction, you know, with people and whatnot. So you kind of want to, you like to do that. All those podcasts where guys just talk to the camera for 3 hours and it's just their life story. I love that stuff. I like to hear regular people's lives. I know the famous people of the world have fake lives. They write books. They have people ghostwrite books for them about their fake life, you know? And that could really be a topic we could dive into, but I'm not going to do that. So Enoch can always be, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, I'm going to send Jesse that too, though. Enoch can always be brought back to do evil. Now, what is Enoch? Thanks. Yeah, so I do have questions. So I have specifically, hey, what's up, Lord Cameron? I have specifically clicked on the wrong thing. I have specifically avoided Enoch because my boy Wes, you know, a long time ago, I was having a tough time. He actually reached out and was like, no, man, I hope you're doing, you know, you got a lot of good things that, you know, you could do. And I was lacking motivation. And I was, for some reason, struggling with religion of all things my whole life. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I wish I could turn it off. I wish I could just be like, oh yeah, I, you know, whatever, this is how I feel, but I never think about it. I obsess about religion since I was a kid. I can't turn it off. It's not going to go off. And my boy Wes was very similar with, you know, religion. He has learned a lot more about the Old Testament stuff. And of course, he would get along great with Gnostic Informant because they have very similar personality, bro types, but not, you know, douchebags or anything like that, you know. And I know we've been having a little back and forth and whatnot. We'll iron the wrinkles out of all of that. I'm sure there's probably just sort of misspeakings and miscommunications and, you know, initial reactions and stuff to a lot of characters in this spectrum of religious YouTube. And so, yeah, you know, I've had guys that I have completely told to fuck off and then invited them onto the live streams. They're recording this right now, probably. So, oh my God. But what's up, Lord Cameron? Love to hear his story as well, considering my own becoming a Gnostic Christian myself. And that's kind of why I am here too, guys. I have become this purple cross shield, like armor with a purple cross here, but I'm like a contractor for this pretend war in my metaphysical Lord of the Rings sphere in my brain or whatever that I'm drawing in my head. Y'all probably know what I mean, though. Like, I'm the descendant of all these dudes. I have very different beliefs, but I'll stand up for the good people that are in it. And those, every once in a while, you run across somebody who's really into some anthropology, archaeology related topics related to religion, and they can really accept it. And that's when the conversation gets awesome. Of course, I'll talk to anyone who, you know, is a Mormon. I don't care. Like, I want to hear your story. I want to know. That's what everybody else wants to know too. They're tired of hearing me say the same stuff over and over again. Yeah, so I actually would love to bring you on, J-Frog, and WitchDoctorChristianity@gmail.com. If you send me an email, I'll send you the link, J-Frog. Just say J-Frog in the subject. I might do chat roulette later with the StreamYard roulette and put it up in the thing. You know, I don't know. I don't know. So you never know who's going to jump in there and just shit all over y'all. And it's like, perhaps not today. I want a low stress Sunday. You know what I mean? We got a lot going on in WitchDoctor's world over here. I got a baby in the oven. You know, my snake lady brewing the Messiah over there. Just a joke. Y'all know from my songs and stuff, all these inside jokes and Babylon and stuff. We have done an amazing job with her pregnancy. She hasn't used any even pain medication or anything like that. It's been very all natural. We don't have certain ingredients that you might say is RFK style phobic, but I was a bodybuilder and she's a pro bodybuilder for years. So you can't help but like, okay, we're not going to eat that if we're pregnant, you know, blah, 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 just like any smart mom would. And so she's been doing very, very good. I've had it easy as a expecting dad, if you will. I know a lot of guys get eaten alive and then they just don't stop, you know, and it can be tough. And that's, you know, usually if that's when you're younger and you can't kind of figure out a way to talk about stuff and whatnot. When you get older, you kind of know what not to say to make everything horrible, you know? And so, with Galactic, Intergalactic. I got Marcel the link. Do some work real. Speak of the devil, the co-host of the century. We have Marcel and Magnus. What's up, man? How's your mic?
Oh, yeah. Hey.
Sounds good. Good.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your world? I know it's only been a day. We haven't done a back-to-back in a long time, but I actually have the energy. Probably just because I lost so much weight and stuff. I have more energy altogether than I used to.
Yeah.
I started getting tired of these things, man. It's like 6 hours. Let's see what it does. And then like for a day or two, I'm just like, you know, done.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What you been up to today?
Well, I'm just grinding that video game basically.
Yeah, I got to get you and Tiger Shark and Chase in on a a video chat soon that isn't live for some of the stuff that we've been working on.
Okay, yeah.
That is it's moving along. All the different projects everybody has right now. It's, you know, the book's done. Now we're editing it. Chase is in pre-production for the Gnostic Zone. And by the way, if I do have Gnostic Informant here for a second, Myth Vision, if you even catch this clip, or if one of the minions clips this off and sends it to whoever, Chase would, he was interested in having different people in the show. And, you know, there could be some awesome opportunities for some networking there, because they're all in Florida. Something I wanted to point out real quick, guys. So, but either way, we got a lot of really cool stuff going on there. We're going to look at Enoch today, but let me keep sending some of these things. And everybody with me, if you're watching, if you're re-watching, don't feel bad to scroll forward a little bit till you see activity popping off. Let's see.
Right. Oh, yeah. Did you send me an email about what we're going to talk about today? I didn't check my email.
Oh, no, I didn't. I stopped doing that because whenever I put together this big email, we might get on a good topic, and if the right person who's been talking about it isn't in the live stream that day, then it's kind of like we want them to be there when we talk about that, which is why I was going to talk about it.
That's true. Yeah.
But I also am going to send that to Jesse, my buddy that was in the chat yesterday. He might come on and he'd have the floor. Yeah, I wanted to talk to him about that.
We need to fix the thing too. So go to the. You know how you made everybody able to stream to their own audience or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to turn that off because it makes all the chats go weird. So you need to turn that off and just turn back on. Let people chat. Like let your guests chat. If you let your guests chat on, then I'll be able to talk.
Boom. Save changes. All right, see if it works. I'm sending this to my boy Jesse. Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna reload the page. Hold on.
Cool.
I'm not sure. Hold on. I'll leave the studio and come back in.
Cool. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, since we just got started, we're 11 minutes in. Everybody that's been watching or just joined in, we're getting everybody here. But in the meantime, we are going to listen to some.
Please stay in me tonight. Don't leave me, Jesus. Don't leave. Christ, your purple inside me deep. Your magic wand, boy, you brought my resurrection.
Yeah,
so bright and
chat.
amazing, a full body erection. Call me crazy, I've seen the rod of light. How you Christ those virgins between their thighs. Oh, Jesus, don't leave me, Jesus. Please stay in me tonight. Don't leave me, Jesus. Don't leave. Christ, your purple inside me deep. Your magic wand, boy, you brought my resurrection. So bright and amazing, a full body erection. Call me crazy, I've seen the rod of light. How you Christ those virgins between their thighs. Oh, Jesus, don't leave me, Jesus. Please stay in me tonight. Don't leave me, Jesus. Don't leave. Christ, your purple inside me deep. My heart, it is fainted from the venom of light. Please put the Antichrist in me and locked it in my eyes. Oh Lord, bring me back, Jesus. Don't leave me, Jesus. Please stay in me tonight. Don't leave me, Jesus. Don't leave. Christ, your purple inside me deep. Don't leave me, Jesus. In the foggy night, they watch for Jesus, guarding the secrets of the mysteries, sneaking into our hearts and into the garden, penetrating my love. Oh, can't you feel me? Give it to me, Jesus. His cloth around my naked soul removes the pain. Oh, how he feels this hollow hole. In the garden, my passion flows out. Oh, how it grows out. I fill him up, he fills me too, with love so true. In the garden, our hearts entwine. With every kiss, our souls align. Tightly inside me, the flame ignites. Jesus shoves his love into me hard. Oh, this purple on me, it makes me high. A love that cannot die. Give it to me harder. Here comes our Lord Judas, the weight of betrayal. But in this garden, our harvest will prevail. In the garden, my passion flows out. Oh, how it grows out. I fill him up, he fills me too. With love so true. In the garden, our hearts entwine. With every kiss, our souls align. Oh, the burning purple inside my heart. The sacraments of love, a deep new start. Eternal life in the mysteries we tread. In his purple love, all fear and dread. Give it to me, oh Jesus and Mary. Oh, in the garden where passion flows, love ignited, oh how it grows.
What is
Fill him up, he fills me too.
What's going on, y'all? We are back. All right, so we had to do some setting changes and stuff, but I think we're good to go. All right, so let's see. First place we're going to start as we're waiting for guests. Enoch, I want to know more. And so we're going to Gnostic Informant's channel. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's got some videos on this. Let's check it out. Let's look. I'll start here, and then as I have guests come on, I'm going to be doing little mini interviews, if you will, but also if they have any information on some of the topics or something they wanted to bring up, that's what we're going to be doing. Let's see. All right. Book of Enoch was central to early Christianity. All right, we got that. Let's see if that's the only, you know how sometimes you do it more than once. All right, let's start here. I'm going to play a little bit of this, guys. Let's see what we got.
He's using this quote about this Enochic Son of Man figure, and he's using it for Jesus. And Mark almost didn't make it. It wasn't very popular, so they almost didn't include it. But the one that they did almost include was the Gospel of Peter, which concludes with like 100-foot tall talking cross. You know, it's like literally walking around talking to people. You know, on a mountain, the top of it's shooting out fire, surrounded by smoke, the ground is shaking. You know, there's rocks and lava flying everywhere. There's lightning, thunder, and all the rest. It's volcano imagery. Die, and then they will be resurrected with the Son of Man. And that comes from Enoch 62:15. If you're looking at a different branch of Judaism, the ones that...
I'm going to pause real quick. Let's do this. Crossbible.com. Let's see. All right, I want to see... All right, let's see if they have on the timeline non-canonical Old Testament books. I'm sure they got to be on here, right? All right, New Testament. All right, let's see. Yep, he does. All right, right here. Nice. Perfect. All right, so what's the year? Real quick before I zoom in. All right, between 3 and 200 BC is when this tab begins, at least for this diagram. All right. You still there, bro?
Yeah, I'm here.
I was on the other page. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see what we got here. Just going over stuff since we're just getting cranking up. Greek additions to Daniel. These are the deuterocanonical books and the Apocrypha. When I first was, younger and I was an atheist, the Apocrypha was always something that I would mention. And you'll hear it with young atheists now that are still in that first phase of debating everybody. Oh, have you ever heard of the Apocrypha? Oh, it's these books that never made it in. But then people don't go read it. They just say this, and then they try to just tell Christians a bunch of stuff that they don't know, maybe see if they know stuff about this. And then they ask these questions like, why wasn't this included? Or why wasn't this included? You know, things like that. All right. So in these, I'm going to call it deuterocanonical books, the Apocrypha, starts the Greek additions to Daniel, the prayer of Azariah, the song, the three holy children, Susanna, Bel and the dragon, Greek additions to Esther, A through F, Greek Esdras, where's Esdras? Greek Esdras, a fifth and sixth Ezra. Okay. All right. So this whole tab right here, that would be a great thing for me to have a guest go through this and explain each of those, you know, a little bit more would be great. So here we got Enoch, the Book of Watchers. Okay, now this is what I have heard. I've seen a little bit of Enoch stuff. You know, you see the when you're doom scrolling, you see, you know, when you're doom scrolling, bro, and you see like in the Book of Enoch, it says that this is coming, it'll have, you know, but I've seen those, but
yeah, I see. I saw a bunch on the Book of Enoch like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
but I didn't really keep up on it or anything. But there's a lot in the book. I know the Ethiopian Bible has the Book of Enoch still in it. I do believe.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. I think
interesting.
I can't even say the fucking word. Oh my god.
Ethiopian Bible?
I over medicated. The Ethiopia. Oh my god! Wow, I can't even talk. That's hilarious.
What medications are you taking? I'm just playing. I drank all that cough syrup earlier. Fuck this. I'm just playing.
It's really funny. Wow.
So the Book of Watchers, then one Enoch, the Book of Parables, and then two Enoch, Slavonic, Enoch, and Secrets of Enoch. Okay. So each of these books I have specifically never looked into, awaiting the day to do it like this, considering that I wrote that book a year ago, WitchDoctor Christianity. And so even though we've edited it and stuff, and now I have all involved.
The Nephilim are in the Book of Enoch. That's what I was trying to remember.
Nephilim.
It talks about the Nephilim, which were the giants before the flood of the Old Testament.
I've heard that with brief people just talking about it a little bit.
Yeah,
but like I said,
but they're not. I'm not sure about any of that shit. But like the Bible talks about the Nephilim, but it really only mentions them like once or twice in the Old. Excuse me, in the Old Testament. But they're all over the Book of Enoch. There's all kinds of stuff in there. And there's like magic.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. And there's like magic. There's more. Yeah. And there's other stuff in there too. I just can't remember because it's been 20 years since I've looked into the Book of Enoch.
Right. So I clicked on that, and
it took me. My feed lately, yes, like you were saying, like it's been in my YouTube feed lately.
Oh, it has. Yeah. Well, I think the way that the algorithm works. I've seen TikToks on it, and I've started videos on it, but then like I'm passing the hell out like 15 minutes in, like you know what I mean, just because everybody makes these super relaxing, like videos, so I'm like, yeah. And then I'm gone, and I'm like, okay. But my buddy Wes, he did say, and he sent it to me one time because we were working on a book together not too long ago that I think now I'm going to submit to Mandy's Towel of Minerva book. The chapters that I did write, I'm going to pick one of those and see if Mandy wants to put it in his book. It's a story about the mushroom god that we have pictures of in all of the Plants of the Gods books, and from the caves in like northern Africa. But it's a story about how that happened, pretty much. And but he was telling me that there was some passages in Enoch where it looks like an entheogen being used. And so that's where I've always been like, all right, I'm going to come back to that. But, after all the things that I've already been writing about or whatever, or trying to research, whatever you call that. So the book of Enoch, and I'm going to do this just in case. I'm just going to mute you a little bit. All right, so let's click over here. So now if you go to crossbible.com and you go to the book you're looking for and you hover over it, it's going to show you some kind of resource to, so sometimes if you're hovering over the Codex Sinaiticus, which Steve's was talking about how it wasn't the best representation, it's not the best translation, I guess from the fragments and stuff from before that and the books before that. But if you hover over it, it'll take you to the Codex website and you can just see the site that it's referring to, or the book and picture by picture, which we've all looked at before in all the videos that I had done, because that's just the one that I kept using because it's such a user-friendly, at least website. I'm not saying it's the most accurate, but it's not like we're getting too off even reading the modern Bible when it comes to that. Book of Enoch, also one Enoch, Hebrew, Sefer, Enoch, is an ancient Jewish apocalyptic religious text. Okay. So it's like Revelation for the Old Testament, sort of. Ascribed by tradition to the patriarch Enoch, who was the father of Methuselah. Oh, okay. Methuselah. If I'm not mistaken, Methuselah is involved in the flood, right? I know you're muted right now. Methuselah, wasn't that who predicted the flood with Noah, or the Gilgamesh story, and the great grandfather of Noah? Oh yeah, there we go. Finish reading the sentence, Stephen. Maybe you'll get there. The book of Enoch contains unique material on the origins of demons and the Nephilim. The Nephilim. Yeah, that I have seen bazillions of TikToks, and they've been included in some of the other pseudo-religious channels I would watch before Gnostic Informant and before Myth Vision and stuff. I'd seen that. Can't tell you. I couldn't even tell you who the channels were that I would even watch back in the day. 3 books are traditionally attributed to Enoch, including the distinct works of 2 Enoch, 3 Enoch. Start of the Ethiopic. Okay, so here's what you were talking about right here, bro, right? 16th century manuscript, the Ethiopic Enoch. So the Ethiopian Bible does contain the book of Enoch, for sure. There's a picture of it, I guess. All right, so 1 Enoch is not considered to be canonical scripture by most Jewish or Christian church bodies, although it is part of the biblical canon used by the Ethiopian Jewish community, Beta Israel, as well as Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church, Eritrean Orthodox Tawahedo Church. I'm probably butchering it. The older sections of 1 Enoch are estimated to date from about 300 to 200 BCE, and the latest part, Book of Parables, is probably from around 100 BCE. Okay. So I know that we've had a discussion about how old some of the texts and things that we got, but just it is written after the Old Testament would have been written, which makes sense, because if it's an apocalyptic text, then it's kind of, coming after, just like how Revelations is at the end of the New Testament, was originally written in either Arab. Scholars believe Enoch was originally written in either Aramaic or Hebrew, the languages first used for Jewish texts. Ephraim Isaac suggests that the book of Enoch, like the book of Daniel, was composed partially in Aramaic and partially in Hebrew. No Hebrew version is known to have survived, though. Shit. Copies of either sections of 1 Enoch were preserved around Aramaic among the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Qumran caves. All right, so they are.
Yeah. It takes place before the Great Flood in the Old Testament.
So it's in Aramaic. So okay.
Like
Cool.
the stories in it, like the chronology of the book, like the stories in it are before the Great Flood.
Oh, what's up?
Hello.
Segue. Pause. on the book.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's not bad. So, what you up to today?
Not much. I was about to
Chilling
go.
at the house.
Yeah, I was about to go pick up my kids, but I think my wife is gonna handle that.
Okay, cool. Well, we might even have one other guy who I sent the link to jump in the midst of you. So if you see J Frog's square pop up or any of the other guys that are on the channel, they might pop in halfway through. But I was curious. So real quick, Jesse Iglesias, he's this particular individual, guys. He's actually a friend of mine from the gym I go to every day. And I noticed he had a text right here. Philippians 4:13.
A little messed up.
Yeah. No. It says Philippians 4:13.
Yep.
Let's say, are you getting you know those warnings you get on your phone? All right, so let's see. Let's go to that passage real quick.
I guess considering what text you go to, it's I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
I got you. Well, let me ask you this then. So where are you from originally?
So I was born in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, I got you. And what what year or so did you like graduate high school or whatever?
So I didn't actually graduate high school. I actually dropped out.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had some buddies that did the same thing, but me and you have something in common. You were in the Army.
Yeah.
So tell me what made you decide to join the Army of all the branches. What was the Army?
Oh, man. The Army is the only one that would take me, if I'm being honest.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So this tattoo I've had for a long time. This was my first tattoo that I got. And then it was because of the tattoos that I couldn't join any of the other branches.
Right.
And when I went to the Army, they were like, we'll take anything.
Heck yeah, man. So what made you decide to join the military though? Was it just how old were you when you made that decision?
Oh man, I think I was 21.
21? Okay.
Yeah, I think I was 21.
The reason I'm even asking is because, so when I would join the Army, I was an atheist. Yeah. And when I went downrange, you're an atheist. Everyone's praying before you roll out the wire. All the atheists are staring at each other. Yeah, you're all just kind of like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hope we don't get blown up today,
Yeah.
And so I didn't re-enlist because I didn't have a strong enough spiritual connection to feel strong enough to handle another year of people dying or almost dying or getting shot at or blown up or all the crap you deal with.
Suicide.
Yeah. And then that's another thing, is do I want to deal with that, later on, dealing with all those deployments stacked on top of each other. It really starts to gain some compound interest in a way. But you said you had that before you went in. So you were a Christian when you joined the Army. Sort of.
I was confused, I think. I grew up, my grandmother, she was Catholic. She talked about Jesus. She even talked about Mary and all that stuff. And growing up, I had an idea of what a Christian was, but it was a very religious idea. Just things of what I seen. I had no experiences or anything. And so going into the Army, I labeled myself as a Christian because, they, on your dog tags,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't act like a Christian. I mean, I partied a lot, drank a lot. I wasn't a quote unquote Christian. I didn't read the Bible much. I talked to the chaplain a lot. But I mean, what is a Christian, Yeah.
Good question. It's kind of like asking in the bodybuilding world, what does natural mean?
Exactly.
Define natural, because you have guys
exactly.
on TRT, and that's with permission. That's not shunned. and then you
Yeah.
have guys who are just lying.
Yeah.
So I guess I would ask you, what's up, J Frog?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Not much. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got
Okay.
So I was just asking Jesse. So you went in the army. You kind of. So the tattoo was more like how, maybe more like when guys get the cross earring. It's kind of like, this is my thing, but it was more like, I want to get a tattoo, or
pretty much. Yeah, it was something at the time that I identified with, and I was wanting a tattoo, and I was like, scripture sounds cool, that'll look good.
And grandparents won't shun it too bad because it's scripture,
Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't based off of a true belief at that time.
I had this experience one time where when my granddad died, I thought later on I kind of might have corrected the story, but I had this huge, profound experience besides this one night in Iraq where the Christians were there for me and they started praying in the middle of a really bad fire. Well, it was an indirect fire thing, but it was these really precise hits. It was destroying our building. We lost a lot of guys that night, and at the end of the night, everyone started praying because we thought we were all going to die. And it was a lot, just holding back the freaking tears because everybody started praying. It just made you feel the love that these soldiers had for each other. And it definitely will touch you when you're in the middle of it. We couldn't get helicopters out. And we were in the middle of changing our weapons out with the new team coming in. So we had all of our ammunition in piles as we were reloading magazine. It was like the worst case scenario for an indirect fire night. You sleep through mortar rounds and stuff in Iraq. Yeah. You get to the point where you're like, forget this. But this night was so bad. I mean, it was melting through the metal of the Cat 5 armor. Like our truck, we were going to go get in our truck and move it right through the gunner's hatch where I would have been. This freaking J-damn size freaking hole. And I'm over exaggerating. Don't let me be Tim Kennedy. All right. But this big old hole just where this mortar had come through the turret perfectly and melted the seats to the damn Humvee and stuff. Like they had strapped nuts and bolts. That was a really magical night for sure. I'll never forget it. It changed my brain from the trauma just because we were such sitting ducks, right? But there was this other experience I had, and I wanted you to talk about something. I had this profound experience one time where I had a series of events happen, and then something out of this world sort of happened. And I still haven't been able to make up my mind if it was my recollection of the events wrong, because I was just having a really, really tough time when this happened. But it really shook things up for me a little bit, and I ended up wearing a cross for a little while. And then next thing you know, I get hired on with a presidential campaign doing security. And then my life just boom, 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 all after I put this cross on, almost like in my brain as a joke. I'm just like, what is this witchcraft? Like, how did this all come about from that? But you were telling me that you weren't really that much of a Christian,
Right.
And then you had this thing happen. That's what I want to hear about. Tell us a little bit more.
So you want me to kind of like walk you into how I got to that point?
Yeah.
So I had spent probably a good year I remember I told you I was following some guy from South Africa. He was reading the Ethiopian Bible, and he was talking to Christians and saying, you guys are following the wrong one. You should be following Jesus, because that's the son of Zeus and all of this stuff. And I was really big into that, trying to debunk Christianity. And I was looking into like spiritual things like energy and stuff like that. And I remember this our neighbor had sent me a video on true repentance, and I was in my living room on the couch watching it. And in the beginning of it, I was like, man, I really don't want to watch this. Really, really don't want to watch this. And something kept pushing me to watch more and more. And about 15 minutes into it, because it's about an hour and a half long video, about 15 minutes into it, there was something in me telling me that it was, this is for me. This video is meant for me today, right now. And towards the end of it, I'll just skip past it because there's a lot of stuff through the video that meant something to me. But the experience that I had was at the very end of the video, when the guy was praying, he stopped in the middle of his prayer, and it was like, do you see that? I had my eyes closed, and at this time I was doing drugs and stuff, but I was sober at this point. I was sober watching this video. There was no drugs involved. I wasn't drinking or anything.
You were trying to have a good day.
I was sober, and I was kind of in a depression, but that was about it. Anyways, at the end of it, this guy's praying, and he's saying, do you see that? And I'm like, what's this guy talking about? And he said, that's Jesus. And as soon as he said, that's Jesus, my eyes are closed, and I see, remember I was telling you, it was kind of like the silhouette of a man, and his head was, I'd be lying if I tried to explain what his face looked like, but it was like light, almost, if that's the best way I could describe it. But as soon as I seen it, in my heart, I knew that was, if anything, it was somebody. It was, man, it's so hard to explain. It was like pure love almost. It was so profound that there was no explaining.
It was
I just, in my heart, I knew it was Jesus. In my heart,
until feeling took over you. Like your
Yeah,
whole
man,
body
yeah.
tingled, you lost sensation in the room.
No. It wasn't like that. So I just knew who it was. And immediately I was like, I started remembering all the things that I'd done in my life that was wrong, because I didn't grow up I didn't have all the things that people had growing up. I grew up in a very bad part of Tampa, Florida, in the ghetto.
Oh, I used to live there.
I lived in Ybor City, bro, and it was bad.
Man. That's the hood, dude.
Oh yeah, it was the hood.
Yeah, a lot of gangs, a lot of Hispanic gangs. Yeah.
So I knew who it was at that moment, and I just remembered all these things from my life and all the bad stuff that I had done. And it was like a flood of information in my brain, but it was so quick. It was so quick and so slow. It's kind of hard to explain. But after that information, it was kind of like he was up here for a moment, and then all of a sudden, it was like an embrace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all the stuff that I had done in my life, it was as if for the very first time, somebody had acknowledged the things that I'd been through. And for the first time in my life, I was forgiven. And I started bawling my eyes out, dude. I was crying. I was curled up like a little baby on my couch. And
I've definitely done that, bro. Maybe not curled up, but just
man. I was curled up. And I was just bawling my eyes out. And after that, after this all happened and stuff, I kind of had because whenever you're looking for God and you're trying to debunk Christianity because of all the wrongs that you see throughout the world and through all these pastors and preachers and stuff molesting children and all these things.
I got the book somewhere.
Yeah.
Sucks.
I always ask myself, what is God? Who is God? Where are you? looking up to the sky, being in the army, all these people dying around you. Why would you let this happen? Type of thing. Talking to the chaplain about it. What if, because I was in the infantry, the chaplain would always talk to us and say, and I remember specifically asking him the question, if one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill, why are we being taught how to kill people? And why are we going over there and killing all these people? And they always had an answer, they always had an answer. And
there's always
that was
a salesman answer.
Yeah. And if being in the army, there's a lot of Christians, but there's also a lot of atheists, and there's also a lot of satanic people. And I remember my first team leader, he was a Satanist. And I told him that I was a Christian.
Right.
And he was like, you believe in that stuff? He's like, you know how many people that I've seen die? You know how many people, and your God's letting them die?
That's a pretty
it was
address.
Oh yeah.
There's so many other ways he could have done it.
Yeah. That being put in my head and all that stuff, I always had the question of who is God? What is God? And after I had this experience and I was truly forgiven at that time, I remember getting up, walking outside and looking up, and I was like, thank you. Thank you for showing yourself to me. And I had to, and I remember I told you for about 3 weeks, man, I had this presence of a peace. Nothing could bother me because I had anger issues at the time. I have anger issues now, but at that time, for 3 weeks straight, dude, I was driving. I used to road rage a lot, and dude, nothing could bother me. Nothing. I was stopping and talking to random people on the side of the road, trying to tell them about my experience.
Yeah,
I turned into that crazy person for a little bit because without control of, what I'm trying to say is I can kind of see how people get to be to where they're like crazy Christians because if you ever have an experience like this, it changes you.
It moves you. Yes.
Yeah. It moves you from one person to another. Like it changes you from this person to a whole nother person. And since then, that happened almost 4 years ago. There's been a lot of hardships. There's been a lot of me doing things that I'm not proud of. And I question whether or not, if I'm a real Christian, because to a Christian standard, you're supposed to be doing all these things or that's some Christian standard. To most Christians, if you're looking at what they actually believe in, if you believe in Jesus, then you can be forgiven, right?
It's confusing. There's a lot of denominations that have a different version on how you're supposed to do it, and it's like, do I have to go to church? Is it not just enough? The scripture, only scripture, isn't that good enough? Isn't that what he said? And then it kind of, then there's
that's my question though. So like, my question would be for you is, how do you feel with all the stuff because you're here with WitchDoctor, so you've seen like the Dr. Amon stuff and like the so-called alleged pedophilia or whatever with Jesus. Like
he saw a little yesterday, but I haven't introduced him to the Lady Babylon channel.
Oh, okay.
We just started talking about his experiences, but he has heard me say stuff from that channel. Like just
we've talked about it, and I was like, we need to talk more about that. We didn't want to do it in the middle of the gym because
right. We here in Texas, Bo. They're like, no,
don't talk about my Jesus.
Well, see, my thing is right, like, because I consider myself a Christian. I'm more like I've been interested in Gnosticism for like 10 years now, and like, I was one of the first people to see Derek when he first started. And then
really?
Neil. Yeah. I was back. I don't know if you guys remember. He used to have another co-host. I don't know if they just stopped talking.
I'm sure they
forgot his name. He used to have a co. It was like him and another dude that were on at first. It was him, Dr. Bob, and a black dude. I forgot his name. And like and now it's just Derek with the I mean I guess he kind of still made up with Dr. Bob or whatever, but yeah, so I was viewing Derek like when he first started, and then Neil started a little bit afterwards. And like I'd already been interested in Gnosticism, but I just didn't understand what it because it's so complicated, and they try to make it's basically trying to branch a lot of stuff under one umbrella, one term to me. And so Derek and Neil. So like when I talk about Derek and Neil in the comments, like I mean yesterday I know Mandy was coming after me. Like I have no ill will towards Derek and
Mandy's
Derek and Neil because
he's a satirist, so he's gonna
oh
bust
yeah, yeah, I know.
everyone's balls, even mine. Like he doesn't
Oh
even
yeah,
hold
yeah,
back. Yeah. I'll be
but I
right
was
back,
gonna
guys.
say
Keep
I mean
going, J Frog.
I've talked to Neil like I'd have a lot of respect for like what he's bringing out and stuff like that. But yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is I'd been interested in Gnosticism, so I was also coming from like an atheist perspective, whatever. And then I realized like I'm not really atheist. Like I don't I still believe that there's something there. And then I started learning more about like the divine spark and the divine wisdom and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm still learning, to be honest with you. Like I'm not 100% understand what's going on. But like for me, like when people say, "Oh, you're a Christian," a lot of times we look at the Orthodox, like what became modern Christianity came from like because there was different sects. We know that there's like we're just finding little evidence of the different sects that existed, like the Marcion sect, and then we also have like the original text that a lot of the Gospels come from was just Jesus, just sayings of him. It really wasn't about his life and all this other stuff that was added onto it, you know. So
It's like Matthew
that's
19
my
that I read yesterday. It's so like the Nag Hammadi text, Jesse, if you haven't heard of that, it's just imagine a little bit later after the initial books, imagine an Egyptian Coptic Greek manuscripts of sayings of Jesus. So there's and then some are a little bit more developed depending on which, story. If I have something about that wrong, correct me because I misspeak all the time. And
oh, yes.
these particular texts have been looked into by a female that we've covered on the show named Elaine Pagels. She's a really well-known author, and she's pretty accepted in the community. I mean, not the biggest troublemaker. She's got a Harvard degree and stuff, and she actually talks about the metaphysical energy and origins of Satan in a book called The Origins of Satan. One of the books is called The Gnostic Gospels. And so when we say Gnosticism, I feel like J Frog is anything that's not canonical sort of gets shoved under Gnosticism, but it does have its own story and stuff that's very similar to religions and, in their way of thinking and whatnot, if that makes sense. But I do use the term Gnostic loosely to describe anybody who is into all the extra stuff attached onto Christianity and really into that. I kind of just call them Gnostic in my head now.
Whenever
if you're
we
looking
talk
at
about
all that stuff, so. But keep going.
Talking about. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, what'd you say, Jesse?
I was gonna say, whenever we talk about Gnosticism, are we talking about like the different perspectives, like from Judas and Mary and all that? Are you talking about those books?
Yeah, you have the right idea. Only because we've all looked at them recently, we might get the names of them right. But yeah, it's the greater lessons of Mary, and sorry if I'm even saying this stuff wrong, these examples wrong. The evangelism of Josephus. There's Joseph. There's all these other stories that we've looked at trying to find different entheogens, because if it didn't make it into what you're allowed to read, our idea was maybe they've put it into some of the other books that just never made it in. Let's see what we can find. And that's been a gigantic rabbit hole that's led to this channel. So that's kind of what's brought us all together, is still Christianity either way. So it's kind of cool in that regard. But keep going, Jay.
I mean, it's the same thing with Revelation, because like if you read Revelation, the Jesus, because like when I was like just going to church when I was growing up and stuff, and I loved Revelation. Like I would read it in church because I'd be bored in church, and like I'd read
Right.
Revelation, and like it's completely different than like a lot, even just the rest of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Just like the stuff they're talking about, it kind of a little bit of like the Daniel and the prophesying and stuff like that, and but like for me, like the Jesus in Revelation is more closer to like a Gnostic, quote unquote Gnostic Jesus. Like even the stuff that Amon has brought out with the breastplate and he has the sword, the double-edged sword coming out of his mouth and the lampshades and he appears
We have
before him. It's crazy.
hermaphroditic Dionysian takes on individuals.
Yeah.
There's
And then
yeah,
and the crazy thing about that too is that he appears like that's why I think it's almost angelic a little bit because he appears like we know a lot of people say the angels are both male or half hermaphrodite. They have the male and female aspects, but then he's like covered in the blood from the like he's a very like militant. And then he also has he claims to be like I'm say like I'm the bright and morning star. So he takes the Lucifer. So it's like you're reading this and then just
Yeah, I
the
don't
imagery you
understand
get.
Revelation at all. If I'm being
It's
honest,
crazy. Like
I don't understand it. It's too many back and forth, and I had the same question about the bright morning star. I was like, is that not what they call Satan?
yeah,
There's a
it's
lot of
well,
crazy.
questions.
Luciferian and Illuminati, Luciferian, Morning Star, Dawnbringer. The first star, the morning star is brings the dawn, if you will. All of that is doing this metaphysical merging with the Jesus character in a way. You have this energy, this Luciferian energy that goes back to even Greek and other things that represent the same stuff, sort of giving him some new titles in a way. But I do think that people get Satan and Lucifer confused, and that is a great topic to crack open, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Satan, for example, like Ken Wheeler, not to segue too hard, but the way that Christians understand Satan is a little bit more like the movie Bedazzled with Elizabeth Hurley, where Brendan Fraser meets the devil, and it's an attractive female, and she grants him a wish. And, I want to be handsome and rich and all this stuff, but she reincarnates him as gay. So he had everything he ever wanted, but he's gay in this life. So he had to change it again. And he changes it again. And he changes it again. That's kind of how people look at, Satan or the devil, or they've lumped Lucifer. They've lumped it all into one person now. But the ideas were very different at one time. The idea of Satan is just your lowest version of the ego, it's the lowest version of the self. So when that demon takes a hold of you and makes you make a lot of really dumb decisions, one after the other, that's the metaphor for walking with Satan in the garden. It's really the little devil of, when you have the devil and angel on your shoulder, but it's
Right.
you with the devil horns. Hey, what are you gonna do? Yeah, that's more like how Satan actually is. It's you. So
Yeah,
in
no.
the Passion of the Christ, they had a very androgynous looking Satan in the garden with him, and as he's sitting there going, "Please let this cup pass," I wonder what he was talking about. When he is hallucinating in the garden, pretty much, the Satan's there, right? But it would be more accurate if it was the same actor in that outfit, because then that would represent the energy behind this. Right now we post biblically, we've now made, you hear old ladies talking about it, like on Key and Peele skits. They do the devil got a hold of my baby, or it's all kind of a post-biblical way of expressing something, but it's all merged together now. But walking with Satan in the garden is your lowest self telling you to do wrong. Luciferian energy has been around forever, but it's that illuminating, progressive, forward thrust into the next eons, if you will. It's the morning star, the refreshment, brings the new day, whatever that new day is shaped like. And in books like Revelation, it sounds like a big psychological, psychedelic experience, sort of.
For sure.
Jesus has a golden breastplate of some kind, whether it be an armor or whether he was seeing some actual girdle of some kind. It has veered where you have a version of Revelation that the heavy lady on Wife Swap, I'm ready for the harvest. You have that over the top and zealous. I literally think that there's going to be these series of events happening in the flesh right here. There's those versions of Christians. And then there's versions of Christians, I think, that can look at all of that as symbolic, just symbolic visions, whether they were entheogen produced or not. The profound experience that you're talking about reminded me of having a visual or an experience without an entheogen. I do think it's possible that people can have those experiences. Obviously, childbirth, you can have DMT releases, and fasting, 3 days of darkness, and emotionally compromised states of mind. You can have, I think, some life-changing and altering experiences, sometimes even when you're not. But it would be weird that somebody that's not going through a hard time or not using an entheogen, just walking along, boom, sees like an angel sitting in the middle of the road. But I do think that we are a being that has a higher sentience than everybody else. For some reason, a few 100,000 years ago, or even further back, we found a technology that existed before fire that allowed us to tap into this thing that we call like a consciousness. It's sort of like what you feel when you go to sleep and you dream. People have kind of danced around explaining that too. People on these entheogens, us following trails of bison with mushrooms growing out their shit, that's kind of, been a hand-in-hand stoned ape theory that I do think is part of our past. And I think that all the religions that we have been motivated by people on these things. But I do think that you can have profound experiences without the entheogens because we hear about it all the time. Or even just a near-death experience, people seeing something that's like, holy shit, there's something
so what about
out there,
What about, so if you look at the Bible, I don't know which part this is, J-Frog, you probably know. It's whenever Saul is on his way, because he's been killing Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's on his way and he's knocked off of his horse and made blind by Jesus. And whenever he's on the ground, he can't see. Whenever Jesus is speaking to him, he said, "What would you have me do, my Lord?" or something along those lines. How would you translate that? How would anybody translate that? Because I don't know the Greek versions of what happened right there. All I have is like the NLT and NIV and all that stuff. That's what I'm basing my belief off of, is these translations that I can understand and read.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean, like for me, like, well, because I don't know Greek, but like the Paul, the whole Paul experience, like for me, it's just interesting because, like he is coming at it from like he's like a Pharisee or whatever, and he's persecuting the Christians, and then it's like it's supposed to happen like a little bit before. Is it after or before the temple's destroyed? I think it's after, and like,
Isn't he Saul before he
yeah,
becomes Paul?
Saul. Yeah, Saul, and then he becomes Paul because the
Right,
scales fall from his eyes, and like
right.
I've always because I mean I watch Neil and Derek talk about Paul, and I've always just been interested like how the story fits in with Christianity because um you just have just the Gospels with Jesus, and then
Right.
like for me that's all like not to really go off topic, but I've always just been interested in like a lot of people talk about how just shortly after Christianity or Jesus was crucified, you had like this church, and that Paul's persecuting this church, and like, how did it grow so fast and stuff like that? And so, like, for me, like, um, because I do believe different views. Like, uh, about Jesus, like his origins. Like, I think the best theory that I think is that the Egyptian theory. I think it's Elaine Pagels, is it, that believes that? Yeah, like he was
There's a
this,
few books on it. Yeah.
yeah, like he came from Egypt. He learned in Egypt, and he came, and then he was on the Mountain
Well,
Albus
he
with
did.
like
He did. That's even in the
15,000 people
Bible.
or something like that, or 1,500 people.
To be able
So
to write, typically you went to school somewhere.
yeah,
In a perfect world, this guy would probably go to Egypt and learn how to write, unless his master, whoever the rabbi bringing him into the world, probably more like John the Baptist, is probably the guy that brought him in. Yeah, maybe would have taught some, but we know Jesus does write because, well, forgive me the way I'm going to word this, when he writes a receipt for selling someone in the sand. And so it existed back then. So the whole, so we see him, well, moral of the story, we see him right in the Bible. So Egypt would, yeah, I like that theory. Keep going though. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, so like I think it's Elaine Pagels that says like he's the Egyptian. He has like he's at the Mount of Olives with his followers, so he has like basically an army, like a little army with them. And so I guess that makes sense of why they would have such a big church that Paul was able to persecute. And so like, yeah, like, I mean, I think Paul did have this experience. Like if he exists, Paul, because I mean, I know I just watched the Neil and Derek was like, did Paul exist type of a thing. But I mean, if he did, yeah, he probably had this experience of like, he felt he was persecuting the Christians. He um, changed his mind for whatever reason. If he did become blind and the scales fell off his eyes, and he converted, and then you had like basically they went on missions after he converted and stuff. So yeah, I mean, like, I do think it's possible that he had that experience. I do think a lot like how you're saying, like you had an experience. I know I did when I was saved and I was baptized and stuff like that. Um, I do think a big part of reason why Christianity, despite a lot of the efforts by atheists, is that you do have this experience, you have this personal experience, and it does want you to change your life and become a Christian and stuff like that. So
Yeah. So the reason I bring up Paul in that moment is because in my experience, it was almost the same. Like I was doing the same thing. And if you look at it kind of through my lens, I was looking to detest or find out how to debunk Christianity. So in a sense, I was trying to kill the Christians, if you will.
Right.
mhm.
And then Jesus came to me and it completely changed. And now I was at the time I was living and trying to tell everyone, including my wife's mom. My wife, she's Lakota, and her mom still believes heavily into how the natives believe. And I was trying to convert her, man. And I was going crazy about it. My wife was like, "You
Yeah.
need to chill." And
I wish Tiger Tuck was
seriously,
here for that, because
yeah.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, we go back and forth a lot because of how their story is passed down, because none of it's wrote. So yeah, so I kind of identify with Paul because of how things were brought about with me. But if you look at the story of Paul, he went to the death. He believed so much that he went to the death for what he believed in. I always
Yeah.
associated Paul with the Romanization of the thing.
Yes.
Sure, what that means. What
That's
do you think?
actually, I would agree with that, because there is a Romanization of the religion. I had my own timeline, but it was in a big 2-hour presentation on the book that I wrote. And I had all the pictures. It was probably more entertaining than the book, honestly. And I took it down because there was some stuff I didn't want to change. And instead of trying to edit a pre-existing PowerPoint, I'll just redo it one day, or whatever, or we'll do other things better than that to tell the same stories. And there's a timeline. So if you really think about Christianity, the word Christianity itself, obviously didn't really even belong to the early years of Christianity. They had these different groups, and based off of a culmination of energies from different researchers and different articles and books and other, just whoever, it looks like there was these Christians had been around for a while, but it wasn't like it'd been around as long as Judaism or anything, obviously, but just the rebelling against all of the rules and all of the doctrine and the wars and stuff, just like Zoroastrian, Zoroastrianism is a very similar concept. It's an older concept. If you read the scriptures for Zoroastrian, you can tell it's older. It's more simplified. And then with Judaism, it's a little more advanced. It's a little more Hellenistic, and it's developing with all this extra influence. But then you have to kind of rewind from Jesus and rewind. There were guys that were doing the things that Jesus was doing before Jesus. John the Baptist, they killed the shit out of him, and according to the story, that even the Knights Templar believed that Mary Magdalene was married to John the Baptist and then got married to Jesus afterwards. There's all these different theories that full-blown establishments have believed in. Like Tim Hogan, one of the dudes for the Knights Templar that was on Danny Jones, he talks a lot about some of the stuff that's existed in the Templars, and how different thoughts and beliefs, and which has led to numerous renditions. Like you got Martin Scorsese making Jesus movies in the 80s, just an apocalypse now vibe from hell for the whole thing. And so I think that Paul, from what I've gathered, the Pauline letters, every time this gets brought up, we always have guys that talk about how they're forgeries, that they're implemented after the fact, retroactivated, retrodated. I would need a guy that's better with languages to explain why they aren't. This is just what everyone I've heard is like, oh yeah, well the Pauline letters, there's these discrepancies with it. And I do think it was Romanizing something that had already existed for a while. Now, this particular story and the Jesus character individually being the guy of this story, there's a very good chance that there was an individual with this name that sparked this. But you have to remember, in the Hellenistic time, it wouldn't have been far-fetched to think that they settle on a name and make up a story. After all, Achilles never actually existed. So when you look at the books, and we do see obvious plagiarisms in like the book of Mark, and then every book after that was based on Mark, we see a lot of the same material in Homer, apparently, according to Dennis R. MacDonald, or is it Robert MacDonald? That's Dennis R. MacDonald. Sorry. He has a book on Homer and the book of Mark, and how line for line for several stanzas through the entire book, it's copied. But you have to remember, if you're an official or if you're trying to write stories, you have to think about all the things that you've ever read before. Well, at this time, everybody had read Homer if you could read Greek, because that's the only thing there is to read. It's the comic book of yesteryear. So that's what you're basing how you're constructing your stories. I've copied songs, changed the chords a little bit, and then copied lyrics, and then changed the lyrics a little bit. And now and changed the key. Now it's my original song, completely fucking ripped off Nickelback or whoever. And I'm just being funny. But so when I think about Jesus or Paul and the Romanization of Christianity, like I always do, I will typically just say, okay, well, before Constantine, before Rome in the first 300 years or so, is probably going to be the most properly representing time frames to base what early Christianity, once it became a thing at this Jewish revolt, and now all these guys and rebel rabbis that don't want to do things your way have now created a whole new thing. It killed the shit out of everybody along the way, but it prevailed and it took off. Now, if in fact an actual individual character named Jesus didn't exist, and this is a combination Tony Montana scenario. Tony Montana is based on 3 different drug dealers from the 80s, but we have Scarface, the movie. And so when it comes to Jesus, my question is, if he didn't exist, then how couldn't this religion have gotten started without entheogens? Because the messages that entheogens do give you, which you can manufacture in mass productions by giving everybody a special drink, which ironically is part of this religion, there had to be entheogens involved, because motherfuckers don't die over stories that have just been made up. People die over things that actually change your life.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
do
like the
think,
experience.
and I do think that the early Greek Eleusinian mysteries and their special drinks that all the rednecks that didn't live in Jerusalem were participating in, I do believe that that is the messages that Jesus was trying to spread. Because the Knights Templar, they say that the way that they push this religion and have always looked at it was, you can also do the same miracles Jesus did. The metaphor about giving the blind man sight is great, but that's not exactly what you're going to be able to do for somebody. But I have personally introduced people that were in heavy mourning, PTSD and post-war trauma. I've introduced them to different entheogens after I saw God and after I saw Jesus on different entheogens. So my question for the group is, because I haven't asked either one of y'all, what do you feel inside when somebody says, oh, those early Christians were a bunch of drug addicts, sex cult hippies? What does that do? And of course, I'm saying it like this to provoke thought, but what does that do to you when I say that? Jesse, go first.
All right. So for me, I have a very open mind to it. I'm not someone I'm not a stupid person. I don't just look at something and I'm like, oh my God, I had my experience. But that doesn't make me go look at the Bible and say, I'm going to live the rest of my life on this thing without looking, obviously. Because whenever you came to me in the gym and you were talking about that stuff,
yeah,
immediately I was so interested because because I had this experience and I started going to church, and there was so many things, dude. I was going to a church with my family, and I remember I looked at my wife and I said, we are leaving. I was at this church. I'm not going to say what church it was, but we were there and they brought this prophet lady there. And all of a sudden they were calling people from that work for the church, and they were telling them to come to the front, and they were prophesying. And all of a sudden she's putting her hand on their head, and these people are flopping out on the ground, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay. I didn't have the guts to do this, but later I was like, what if I just went up there and said, do that to me? I know it was an act. And so that's why I looked at my wife and I was like, we're out of here. I don't like how people have made this thing such a religious thing, because that's what turns people away, because the experience that I had, I know is real. People make fun of me all the time. My wife thought I was crazy even. She's
atheists probably eat you alive.
It doesn't matter. I've had my experience. It doesn't matter what other people say, but whenever you start talking about the purple sash and stuff like that, because I've done mushrooms. I'm not against that stuff. I feel like there's a lot of healing power in that. My friends that have been blown up and shot and stuff, there's one particular, he lives in Colorado, and he does this. He makes his own grows his own mushrooms, and he does it every day as to heal, because he is messed up from being blown up, hit with a rocket, and it helps him.
Yeah.
It helps him. I see that it helps him. I've known him since before he was blown up. I seen him crash out when we were drinking, thinking that we were in combat, telling me to watch my sector, grabbing his guns. I've seen that. And then whenever he's on the mushrooms, it's helping him. So I know that these things help. And then I started looking into microdosing, and then I seen the stuff about hero dosing. And being able to help your PTSD with that. And basically what I'm getting at is I'm open to learn more about this, because I'm not saying that since I've had this experience that now Christianity is the answer for everything. I'm open to learn more. That's why I'm here right now. I wanted to tell my story, and I also want to learn more about what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, see, for me, like I'm kind of in the same thing too. Like I'm always open to learn more, and like I think it's interesting that you say that because I do think a lot of like problems with like I guess quote unquote like the fundamentalist Christianity is that it has to be a certain way, and like when they see like the Dr. Amon stuff or Neil stuff or Derek stuff, and like they're just instantly go into defense mode or they might lose their faith. And my thing to them would be, that's why I asked you earlier, it's like do these, because we at least in the like the Christian Bible that we have, we don't even have to go to the Gnostic sources. We have the Revelation Jesus. That's completely different than the Orthodox or Catholic or Protestant Jesus that we this image that I grew up with was not the a guy with the breastplate and the sword coming out of his mouth with his blood stains all the way up his legs from the wine press, and the Christians under the throne of God asking, "Why are you avenging us?" Like that wasn't what I learned. You know what I mean? So my thing would be to like those kind of Christians is like what do you do about these other versions of Jesus that we had? Like we have the Jesus, the earliest version, the Q document was just his sayings. So we don't even have originally what he was or this person that he was, first off. So you have to just come to the conclusion, like, is your Christianity, is it based on it has to be a certain way? Or are you open to, if you, especially if you had the direct experience, like, are you open to it not being exactly what it is, but at the end of the day, you know that it's right. Like, you know, this experience you had changed you. So, like, I mean, that's more of where I'm coming at it, where it's like, I'm open to these other versions are learning. That's why I like the stuff with Dr. Amen doesn't really bother me. Because in like for me at the end of the day, these are just stories written by people. And they're like when I was on with Neil, I think I came on with Neil and Stephen was there from Cross Bible. And I was asking them, I was like, yeah, like they're talking about the Neoniscos and like, oh, Dr. Amen's wrong about it. But I'm like, he might be wrong, but like it's a weird passage. And then Dale's like, yeah, it's kind of a weird passage. And I'm like, as somebody who's like into art and like storytelling and stuff like that, and WitchDoctor, you would probably be able to confirm like you only have a limited amount of time or space for your story. So the fact that the person who wrote this gospel chose to put that in the story, it's for a reason, is what I'm trying to say. So like this kid, this Neoniscos, like he leaves, he's in the tomb and then he runs off, and it's like, why would you put that in there if it would, like I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a story. They're trying to tell stories. They're trying to build this character, and if you're not, for me, I feel like if you're a Christian, if you're not comfortable with questioning and being open minded, you're probably going to lose your faith because your faith is based on these fundamentalist principles and stuff like that. So
Yes, I would agree a little. It's very, very so. Like I use the example of the lady from Wife Swap that we've all seen a video of. I used to have a little clip of it on the channel, and it was a really big, overweight lady. And when she swapped families, You know, she was a very strong Christian household. Very strong. The hand of God runs that house, and it's through her. She's the vessel for God dang sure. She's ready to throw herself on the burial fire. She got home after spending 2 weeks with astrology, zodiac type hippies, you know. She got back and had a meltdown. My God, it's the worst experience of my life. She starts yelling, get out of my house unless you believe in Jesus Christ. I'm ready for the harvest. And they weren't Christian. And I think a lot of therapists would probably say that wasn't the best reaction, especially after you got home to safety and then the meltdown ensued. And she finally had someone to beat up because, you know, when you're visiting, you kind of don't go after the people that live there like you might your husband if you're that kind of character. I think I made up in my head that growing up, that's how I would be treated if I told my grandparents that I was atheist. But remember that atheists it is a religion now, and I know atheists hate when I say that. But in middle school, if you wanted to rebel, you know, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, typically you just become an atheist and wear dark clothing. And that was kind of your subtle way of, and you don't even tell your parents, but you just are, you know, and you hang out with kids that think and say the same stuff too. And that was more of a form of rebellion. And because I totally see the flaws that you can cherry pick off the surface. Documentaries like Religious that do a great job finding a bunch of morons and getting sound bites of them making a fool out of themselves, just like Borat and Bruno. You know, you find the people in society that embarrass themselves and you dinner for schmucks them by putting them in the material. Because they're just dumb, you know, like a Jewish guy having a Christian art store full of figurines with Jesus on it. And it's like, you're just doing that for the money. You're not even Christian, you know, like stuff like that he would point out. And it made it easy for young white smartasses from cul-de-sacs in the suburbs, like myself at one point, going to a school of the arts where half of that pool of people was going to wind up gay or atheist anyway. And that all is true. You know, like if you go to a progressive school of the arts, and not making fun of anybody, but like the kids you're in school with, this guy next period next to me in math is going to put on I'm not making fun of it. He's going to put on a pair of tights and dance to Swan fucking Lake in 10 minutes. The guy sitting next to me in 6th grade. And I'm going to go finger paint with the other morons that were in that major because that's where they put all the dumb ones. But, and so I love all of that artsy stuff, you know, and the dance and theater and old Greek philosophy being portrayed through ballet. And like yesterday, I was trying to show some symbolism that carried over from Greek into Roman, into Christian, and then into post-Christian Roman times, you know, and then into the 1600s with a movie I posted about a ballet about Leroy Dance, The King's Dancing. It's a French movie about Louis XIV. And it starts when he's a teenager. He's a young little nianiscos, and a guy brings him a pair of shoes with red soles. And now we see a bunch of sun all over him. And in this particular thing, it's the Sun King. But we all know that this is all influenced by Apollo and having a bunch of suns all over him. And then the radiating, you know, things coming from him, if you will. And in that, I actually used a reference for the breastplate from Revelation, this gold breastplate that this guy's wearing in the movie reminds me of what Jesus would have been wearing in Revelation. But I wanted people to see that because this is even what Stephen from Cross Bible was talking about. Ballet and dance and all of that was alive and well until all the revolutions that kind of stomped them back into a conservative sort of thing. So all the dancers went to Russia. And that's why Russia is the pinnacle for dance and ballet, because they kept something that was sort of extinguished in other parts of the world. And I make the joke, Russia, 100 years of atheism will kill your freaking sense of humor. But it seems like a little bit of that kept some of the progressive art alive, even though Russians are the most bland personalities that you could probably think of, just as a joke. Like Russian comedy, like those two words don't go together, but I'm just being funny. And no offense, because my boy Steven Nelson is fluent in Russian. He lived in Russia, and his wife might even be Russian. I don't know. He said he was Russian Orthodox, so I don't want to offend Russia. But as far as where you think of where great comedians come from, I don't think you think of Russia first. So just because of the tone that comes from, 100 years of atheism, yeah, just serious, stereotypes and stuff. But this has been a great podcast, man. Guys, I really appreciate y'all coming on. I was going to talk a little bit about the book of Enoch, but we're getting close to like a 2-hour marker, and I might start slowly wrapping things up. Real quick, Marcel, are you there? I see your mic's muted, but I didn't want to call on you if you're doing something. He might not be at his computer.
I was kind of looking into the comments a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes I cut them off, and it's so funny. Like I told Marcel yesterday, if we spur of the moment jump on and do podcasts, a lot of times you get good stuff out of everyone because everyone's kind of in the energy and they, oh, yeah, let's do it. Hell yeah. Then they make time for it. If they're not free, they don't come in, and it ends up being a really good time. Sometimes when I try to plan these things too much, it trying to stay on the topic, but we're bird walk other directions, ends up being sometimes not as smooth of an episode. But I really appreciate you guys coming and telling your stories a little bit. I definitely want to have you guys back on. But J-Frog, before we go, what do you want to tell the crowd while I give you the floor?
Just basically, just keep going. Like y'all are doing a good job. Like the whole, I guess how you'd label it, the Gnostic sphere is kind of cool. Because
Right.
it is really kind of I think it's more appreciating like this whole like this Christian criticism more than it's criticizing, which like for like the longest time, like a lot of the atheists were just trying to debunk it or trying to criticize it. Whereas like now you're just kind of appreciating it. Yeah.
Very negative conversations usually every time, and using the person's own ignorance against them. I will say a lot of atheists are smart people. Like Sam Harris, he's smart. He said some stuff I don't like, but he's a neuroscientist or whatever. Like that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's an atheist, but sometimes I think you can be too smart for your own good.
No, for sure. Yeah, my thing, like I said, my main thing is just like keep looking. I do think we should definitely like in the future. I know I talk about in the chat all the time the Golden Bow. Like I just finished it. Well, I had the audiobook.
Golden Bow.
And it makes a lot of this. It's funny because a lot of people dismiss it just because of the Christian or the parallelisms, or whatever. And I'm like, it's really just a really small part of his theory. The whole dying and rising gods, like it's a lot. So, but anyways, yeah, just keep up the good work. It's very interesting. I think you're attracting different people. Like you have Jesse, who's Christian. Like I consider myself a Gnostic Christian. You have different aspects, and like Tiger Shark comes in from like the native point of view and stuff like that. So
yeah, it was a shame we didn't have him today because Jesse's going to have some stories about creation stories from his wife's tribe, and you'll find that a lot of times they can be really unique, and sometimes they sound a little bit like some other ones. But I've noticed that, especially from like different books, like books of the Plants of the Gods. Sorry, I have noticed that seems like everywhere there's a creation story. So my question is like for atheists, it's like, bro, if every single civilization had, even all the religions in Africa that don't exist anymore because of, perhaps people coming in, all of those creation stories, like the Ibogaine children for Iboga from Africa. It's a really interesting story, and we've covered it here. But I definitely want to get you back on, Jesse, so that you can expand some with Tiger Shark on what J-Frog was just saying, some of that Native American history too. So
yeah, I have a lot of things that are very controversial. I think that a lot of people that are in the chat right now would probably make their head spin a little bit.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Well, let's see. Next weekend, I may or may not be doing it. I'm picking up my daughter from the airport next weekend. She's been gone for 30 days, maybe longer than that, honestly. It's been crazy, man.
Yeah.
So
I remember you telling me that you had dropped her off. So it's been some
yeah.
time.
So I might not do it next weekend, but the following weekend,
That'd be
same
better for me.
thing. I'll probably jump on again, and we'll pick up with Enoch where we left off, and then whoever we get on as a guest, we might have some segue topics and stuff. But I appreciate it, everybody that joined in today. We're going to go ahead and sign off now, but we'll catch you next time on the next live stream. Take care.
All right.
All right, guys.